Hey 4xe fans, if you've followed this channel for any amount of time, I've talked a lot about recalls in the past, so apologies if this is a repeat for those of you that have been around a while. But if you're new to the channel, there have been several recalls on the 4xe, and specifically B9A, 95B. Those are two important ones. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people that have a 4xe that have not had those recalls done. And both of those recalls are addressing a potential issue with the batteries, that if the batteries go into a like a voltage imbalance thing, like if you have a whole bunch of cells put together, that's what's called a battery, by the way. Little side note, little trivia, a AA cell is not a battery, but a 9-volt battery is a battery because it is a collection of cells. A AA is a cell, a AAA is a cell. So, and I'm imagining, you have to imagine there's a AA battery in there. So that's just a little side note about what is a battery and what's a cell. But in the 4xe, we have a whole bunch of cells that are put together to form a battery, and the system has to balance the voltage across all of those cells inside the battery. And the reason for that is if you have a cell that goes a little bit low in voltage, the system, all the batteries are going to work to compensate, and some of the cells are going to go higher voltage to kind of compensate for that lower voltage, because they've got a voltage level. I don't know if it's exactly 400 volts or if it's like a 408, or if I don't know what the exact number is, but imagine it's 400 volts DC, and the system knows, all the batteries, all the little cells know that it's got to maintain 400 volts. So if one goes low, others will go high. They'll be like hero cells that will kind of compensate for that cell going lower. When that happens, you can end up with a situation where some cells go lower, some cells go higher, and then you start getting heat and stuff going on because of that exchange of electrons and all that power that's flowing around in there, trying to balance all that. And that can lead to what's called thermal runaway, which can result in an off-gassing scenario if the system gets too hot. We've seen several videos of off-gassing scenarios in the 4xe where it fills the interior with gas. Now, I have yet to see this happen to somebody while they're driving the 4xe. It seems to be while it's parked. Now, I take that back. There was a Grand Cherokee 4xe that burned while driving, so I have to correct that right now. That's the one we know of. I'm not going to act like I'm some expert and I've tracked every single one of these issues, but most of them will happen while it's charging. That seems to be the popular thing for them to do. So if your system is not updated with all the updates required, there is software that will trigger a check engine light, oddly enough, check engine light, which we now call a malfunction indicator lamp, not a check engine light, but it's still in the shape of an engine. So I think there's some comedy there. But if you don't have those updates and your battery goes into that scenario where it's getting imbalanced and things are happening, you may receive no warning at all that it's happening. And it could just trigger an event and you would get no pre-warning. Whereas if you have all that software, all those latest updates in there, it will give you a warning and it'll let you know, hey, something's going on in this battery. You need to park it and get it to a dealership. So I would greatly recommend, hugely recommend, enormously recommend that you go and get your recall work done. Do not put these recalls off. A lot of people are putting them off, and I think it's probably because a lot of people don't know about it. But a friend of mine is tracking, he's able to get into the Jeep system and see what percentage of Grand Cherokee 4xes and Wrangler 4xes have gotten all their recalls done, and it's surprisingly low. And I would say some people are probably just ignoring that letter that comes from Jeep about it because they assume it's just marketing material from the dealership and just chuck it in the trash can. I would say Jeep probably needs to do a better job of communicating that this is a really important update, a really important recall. And so there are a lot of people driving these things around not realizing there are updates out there. There's also another group of people, unfortunately, in some of the forums, people have reported that they took their Jeep in to have the recall work done, and it threw a check engine light on the way home. So in their mind, that equates to the recall caused the issue. That is not the case. If you have been told that, if you have read that, that is not true. What was happening is there was actually an issue lingering in the background that the system didn't have the ability to communicate or understand. And the recall brought that to the surface to where you could see it. So, and there's just a lot of misinformation out there, and I don't want anybody to believe that the recall causes the issue. The recall is just removing the veil of secrecy from the issue, and that's why some people are getting check engine lights or malfunction indicator lights on the way home from the dealership after getting recall work done, is because the system is doing what it's now designed to do, and that is to report that issue with that battery. So if you've read that, been told that, if you've read that in any forum that says the recall causes the check engine light, go back and update and say, no, that is not the case. That is not what is happening. It's actually the opposite. Is the system is now able to see what's going on with that battery and give you that indicator on the dashboard, whatever we're going to call it. So whether it's an MIL or a CEL, that's what that is. So please share that information. Please let people know that the recalls do not cause issues. They are uncovering issues. So far, there have not been any injuries that I know of, and there hasn't been any major structural damage to anybody's homes or businesses as a result of these fires. Although some of these fires have caused a lot of damage to other cars. So you just want to make sure you get that recall, because I don't know if we know about a recall and we don't get it done. I don't know how that opens us up for liabilities, but I would just make sure I'm getting that recall done and not avoiding it because you think it's going to cause an issue. I think that's it for today. Thanks for watching.